Thank you. Absolute pleasure to be here today. My name is Harry Yeff. I'm part of the Experiments in Art and Technology program at Bell Labs. I was an artist in residence at Harvard University, and I'm the founder of R100 Studios. I'm also proudly part of the Mercedes-Benz EQ community, and all of the work myself and my team does uses academia and research as a medium to create artworks. And I think it's a very fair question, why do artists matter when it comes to innovation? Why do artists matter when it comes to problem solving? But the truth is, we actually face a crisis in communication. A lot of the most remarkable tools of reasoning, the most incredible ideas, are not actually connecting with the general public. And I'm particularly interested in creating experiences and spectacles and installations that make people experience ideas that they did not know that they wanted to know, and do things that they did not know that they wanted to do. I think there can be huge blocks when it comes to remarkable ideas or new technologies, mostly down to things like sensationalism, and also when it comes to misinformation, it's extremely difficult to reduce fear. I think there's a huge amount of fear when it comes to new ideas, and the arts can be extremely powerful when it comes to undoing that fear and actually replacing that with the correct narrative. Artists are the governors of narrative. We are the empathy end of the process. So if you have world-class engineers, a world-class team, you should be working with world-class artists who are world-class empaths, because we're the ones that are going to help new ideas connect in new ways. I'm particularly interested in the idea of augmented relationships. I really believe that the tools that we use in 2020 and beyond, they sculpt our humanity. There's this slow layering of experience. The more we use something, the more it actually affects our behavior and who we are. And I believe there's huge scope when it comes to travel, how getting from A to B can actually be an incredible space for us to sculpt our humanity, for us to better ourselves. There can be interactive experiences in travel that I can see as an augmented relationship. I feel like when you have interactivity, this is very different to just experiencing something, just experiencing media. So if you're going to interact with a tool, I believe that if there actually is not just a usage of a tool, a genuine interaction, this is a form of augmented luxury. You can use it not just to get from A to B, but it can actually better you. It can better your experience, a skill. There can be lessons. And the idea of something pushing you, I see as a remarkable augmented relationship. And I think the idea of value as time goes on, the things that help us grow have the most value. So as an artist, making these connections, showing new forms of augmented relationships and showing new ways to make connections, I find extremely inspiring. And I'll get on to how that type of connection between things that you wouldn't expect, exploring the idea of augmented relationships, can really help you connect with people in new ways. And I think artists can really help see the idea of travel in new ways, especially when you think of things that are widely discussed now as vehicles becoming the home of media consumption, the home of entertainment. As many of you know, we already live in a sea of augmentation. We live in the age of assistance. We have all human knowledge in our pockets at all time, and that in some way is a very established idea. But actually the technologies involved and a lot of the sort of tropes and buzzwords that come out of it can be scary. There is again this misinformation that comes alongside, and with that you get a huge pushback. So if we are already augmented with our tools, how is that affecting us, and how can we use that augmentation to better ourselves? How can we continue and write new narratives around augmentations, new narratives around the tools we use to reduce that fear? So I'm going to show you a few pieces of my work, and then I'm going to finish with just a conclusion regarding how I think these ideas apply to you. This is a piece called the Polyphonic Playground. This was made by myself and Studio PSK in collaboration with Fashion Space Gallery. It's actually exploring the idea of challenging expertise, again, and an interactivity that might challenge you, but it's there to better oneself. So this looks like just maybe a well-designed playground, but actually on here are 56 triggers. On these triggers, you can bring sounds. So I invited a number of musical experts to come and upload their sounds to this structure. And where musicians normally move in a certain way, they use their tools in a certain way, through this installation, they were forced to jump and reach. They had to behave in a brand new way. It gave them a new relationship with their expertise. And what happens is, with that breaking of habits and habitual thinking, you have growth. When you had an artist that's used to behaving in the way that they've established, you actually introduce 500 people and they have to move in this new way. They're terrified. And what you have is a wholesome fear. There is an interactivity there that actually brings out more. You have a refreshing relationship with an expertise. And every single musician that used this tool had excitement. There was a huge value there that I think is so important, that there can be a new connection with an expertise. There could be something that you're focusing on. So instead of thinking just consuming media, are the tools we're using actually interacting with us to push us, maybe even to the point to make us slightly uncomfortable, to challenge us? I think this is a very, very important idea, that not all things should always be comfortable, and value can actually come from being challenged on your terms. So many, many ideas can come from that augmented relationship that challenges you and pushes you further. This is a second piece called Sea Sound, where we wanted to introduce the idea that every single human being on the planet has a remarkable human voice. The human voice is an incredible tool. And when you think of things like tradition, when it comes to, say, engagement, one thing that is established is the idea of giving a ring. And we wanted to explore, can you actually have other ways of showing the beauty of connection, the beauty of a voice? And if someone wants to say, I love you, I care about you, we can actually develop incredible visualizations that is a direct response to the uniqueness of everyone's voice. So this was actually created in New York in collaboration with Rama Allen and the incredible creative tech team at the Mill. And we had 500 people come in and speak into this system. And what you saw was very shy people, people that don't normally come out of their shell, started to shout. They started to push themselves. And there's one example of a very young girl who was like a koala bear on the leg of their parent. When she started to use it, she flowered. She went from this small, shy being to someone who wanted to see their voice huge as a manifestation on the wall. And again, that augmented relationship showing you something, showing a growth that leads to a new behavior. I see that as an augmented luxury. I see that as a very different thing to just experiencing media. So all of these designs were made by different people's voices, and I think they're incredibly beautiful. But as I mentioned, something traditional like saying I love you or a ring, we are now looking to 3D print these images and structures in precious metals as an idea to actually share your love, your affection in a brand new way. These traditions, the things that are habitually wrote into society, can be changed with new connections, new technologies, and new experiences. But it's interesting when you start looking at new technologies. For example, this is a future collaborator of mine called DNA Block, where they make real-time digital puppets, avatars, and you can actually blockchain those identities. And a technology like this, when you speak to the general public, they think that it's science fiction, that this isn't something that's needed now. But many of you will know that a lot of the technologies that we use, it's very much here, and we have to make sure that we update the sort of consciousness of society so that they are connected with what is really happening. And I think until we start to show the technologies in new ways, through experience, through awe, we have a very, very real challenge. And the thing that gets in the way of that connection is fear. We have a challenge of fear. So how are we going to write the new narratives, create the new experiences, create awe that creates narratives of ownership? And I very much believe that to be down to the role of world-class, great artists to make those experiences. So when we talk about luxury, the definition is a state of great comfort or elegance, especially when involving great expense. I think that travel is one of the last temples in society, that negative space in your life, which I think we've all lost during COVID, is so unique. It's a chance to separate yourself from the world, a chance to think as an individual. And some of you might feel that when you start to achieve in life, the most important commodity you have is not necessarily money, it's time. Time is the most valuable commodity that we have. So the things that we build, the use of traveling, the ideas that we push in to travel, I think should all be about using our time more effectively. And I think augmented luxury is creating systems, creating artworks, creating interactivity that not just we experience, it pushes us to become more. We can grow, we can learn, and not just get from A to B. And I think artists can make sure that these new ideas that happen in travel, all of the best ideas that we have, again, really connect with the general public. So I'm going to redefine luxury as the most effective and efficient use of our time. And I believe that we can use technology to do that. Thank you very much. My name is Harry F, and let's use art to open people's minds. Thank you.